Dr. Marcus Hayes stood on the balcony of the high-tech observatory, his eyes fixed on the endless expanse of the night sky. The remote facility, perched atop a desolate mountain range, was his sanctuary, a place where the mysteries of the cosmos unfolded under his meticulous scrutiny. Marcus was a man driven by insatiable curiosity and a desire to push the boundaries of human knowledge. Tonight, however, the stars seemed to whisper secrets that defied even his vast understanding. Inside the observatory, the hum of advanced equipment provided a soothing backdrop to the team's hushed conversations. Dr. Evelyn Ross, Marcus's closest confidant and an expert in quantum physics, was engrossed in the latest data from their telescopes. Beside her, Tom Jenkins, a young and enthusiastic research assistant, eagerly monitored the readouts. Dr. Samuel Lee, a seasoned veteran, hovered nearby, his skepticism palpable. "Marcus, you need to see this," Evelyn called, her voice tinged with excitement. Marcus joined her, peering at the screen displaying an image of a distant nebulosa. Unlike any he had seen before, this nebulosa pulsated with an array of colors and emitted strange energy patterns that defied known physics. "It's incredible," Marcus breathed, his mind racing with possibilities. "We need to investigate further." The room buzzed with a new level of intensity. Marcus and Evelyn began to examine the data more closely, while Tom and Dr. Lee checked and rechecked the equipment to ensure everything was functioning correctly. The image of the nebulosa on the screen seemed to dance with vibrant hues, drawing them deeper into its enigmatic charm. "It's not just the visual anomalies," Evelyn said, her eyes never leaving the screen. "The energy readings are off the charts. We've never seen anything like this before." Tom, glancing up from his console, added, "The electromagnetic spectrum is showing spikes in regions we didn't even know could interact this way." Dr. Lee, ever the skeptic, folded his arms. "It's fascinating, but we need to proceed with caution. Anomalies like this can be dangerous." Marcus nodded, understanding Lee's caution but feeling a magnetic pull towards the nebulosa's mysteries. "We need to gather more data. Let's schedule continuous observations and run a full spectrum analysis. If this thing is as unusual as it seems, we're looking at something groundbreaking." As the team set their plan into motion, the observatory became a hive of activity. Each member knew the significance of their work and the potential it held. The hours stretched into the early morning, but none of them felt the fatigue that should have come with it. The nebulosa's mystery energized them. The next evening, the team reconvened, ready to delve deeper. Marcus reviewed the initial findings with Evelyn, noting the peculiarities in the data. "Look at this pattern," Evelyn pointed out on her tablet. "It's almost like a pulse, but it doesn't match any known cosmic phenomena." Marcus leaned in closer, his mind working through the possibilities. Could it be some form of signal? An intentional communication rather than a random anomaly? Evelyn's eyes widened at the suggestion. If that's the case, we're dealing with something, or someone, trying to reach out. The idea was both thrilling and daunting. The concept of intelligent life sending a message across the cosmos was the stuff of science fiction, yet here it seemed plausible. Dr. Lee interjected, "Before we jump to conclusions, let's make sure we're not misinterpreting the data. There could be a natural explanation we haven't considered." Marcus appreciated Lee's grounding influence, but his instincts told him they were onto something extraordinary. "Agreed, Sam. Let's keep our heads, but also keep an open mind." As they continued their observations, strange phenomena began to occur around the observatory. Instruments would malfunction without explanation, and once, the entire facility experienced a brief but intense power surge. Could it be related to the nebulosa? Tom asked, his voice tinged with excitement and a bit of fear. "It's possible," Marcus said. "The timing is too coincidental to ignore. We need to document everything meticulously." The nights grew longer, filled with a blend of exhilaration and apprehension. Marcus found himself often standing alone on the balcony, looking up at the sky, pondering the vast unknown. The nebulosa's secrets felt tantalizingly close, yet just out of reach. One particularly clear night, as Marcus gazed up, he felt a profound connection to the universe. The stars seemed closer, the cosmos more intimate. He thought about humanity's place in the grand scheme of things and the relentless pursuit of knowledge that drove him and his colleagues. "We're on the brink of something monumental," he whispered to himself. "We just have to reach out and grasp it." As dawn approached, the first rays of sunlight began to touch the observatory, casting a golden glow over the instruments and monitors. Marcus turned to go back inside, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The journey to uncover the nebulosa's secrets had just begun, and he was ready to lead his team through whatever challenges lay ahead. The atmosphere in the observatory was electric with excitement as the team began their initial analysis of the nebulosa. Each member was absorbed in their tasks, the glow of computer screens reflecting the intensity of their focus. Marcus, Evelyn, Tom, and Dr. Lee worked tirelessly, their minds buzzing with the implications of their discovery. Without warning, the lights flickered, and the hum of the equipment stuttered. A sudden, inexplicable power surge sent a shockwave through the observatory, causing the monitors to go dark. Panic flickered in their eyes as they scrambled to restore order. "What the hell was that?" Tom exclaimed, his voice edged with fear. Marcus's heart raced as he tried to reboot the systems. "I don't know, but we need to get everything back online, now." As the team worked frantically, the power stabilized, but the incident left a lingering tension in the air. The sudden blackout had disrupted more than just their equipment, it had shaken their confidence. Marcus could sense the unease growing among his colleagues. Evelyn's brow furrowed as she analyzed the data logs. This isn't just a technical glitch. The energy spike coincided with a fluctuation in the nebulosa's emissions. Marcus nodded, his mind racing. "We need to understand what's happening. If this nebulosa can affect our systems, we might be dealing with something far more powerful than we anticipated." As the team delved deeper into their research, the anomalies continued. Electromagnetic disturbances caused further malfunctions, and the observatory's communication systems became increasingly unreliable. The isolation of their remote location amplified their sense of vulnerability. Despite the challenges, Marcus remained resolute. He was determined to uncover the secrets of the nebulosa, even if it meant facing unknown dangers. Yet, as the anomalies grew more frequent and intense, a sense of foreboding settled over the observatory. The team was on the brink of a discovery that could either propel them to greatness or plunge them into peril. The next day, the team gathered in the control room, reviewing the latest data. Evelyn pointed to a series of peaks on the graph. "These spikes are becoming more frequent. If this continues, we could be looking at a cascade of failures." Tom, ever the optimist, tried to lighten the mood. "Maybe it's just the nebulosa's way of saying hello." Dr. Lee wasn't amused. "Or it's a warning. We don't know what we're dealing with here." Marcus agreed with Lee's caution but was also intrigued by the potential implications. "Let's not jump to conclusions. We need to gather more data and try to isolate the source of these disturbances." As the team worked to stabilize their equipment, another surge hit, more powerful than the last. The lights dimmed, and the air filled with a strange, almost palpable tension. Evelyn quickly adjusted her instruments, trying to pinpoint the cause. "There's a pattern here," she said, her voice tense with concentration. "These surges are not random. They're synchronized with the nebulosa's emissions." Marcus's mind raced. "If that's true, we need to find a way to predict and counteract these surges. Our equipment won't survive many more of these hits." The team devised a plan to monitor the nebulosa more closely, setting up a series of automated alerts to detect any changes in its emissions. They also began reinforcing their equipment, hoping to mitigate the effects of future surges. As night fell, the observatory was bathed in an eerie glow from the surrounding landscape. The storm outside had intensified, adding to the already charged atmosphere. Marcus stood at one of the large observation windows, staring out into the darkness, feeling the weight of their discovery. "We're venturing into unknown territory," he thought. "The answers are out there, but so are the dangers." Back in the control room, Evelyn's voice broke the silence. "We've got another spike incoming. Brace yourselves." The observatory shuddered as the surge hit, but this time they were ready. The reinforced systems held, and the automated alerts provided real-time data that helped them understand the nature of the surges better. Tom let out a relieved sigh. "We're getting the hang of this. Maybe we can figure it out after all." Dr. Lee remained cautious. "One step at a time. We still don't know what's causing these surges or what they mean." Marcus nodded, appreciating both Tom's optimism and Lee's pragmatism. "We have a lot of work ahead of us. Let's keep pushing forward and see where this leads." As the team continued their research into the early hours of the morning, a sense of camaraderie and determination settled over them. They were united by their quest for knowledge, driven by the mysteries of the nebulosa and the promise of what they might discover. For Marcus, the journey was personal as well as professional. The nebulosa represented the unknown, a challenge that called to him on a fundamental level. He knew the path ahead would be fraught with difficulties, but he was ready to face them. The first light of dawn began to filter through the observatory windows, casting long shadows across the control room. Marcus glanced around at his team, each member absorbed in their work, and felt a surge of pride. "We're in this together," he thought. "And we're going to uncover the truth, no matter what it takes." The days following the initial anomaly were a whirlwind of activity and tension. Marcus and his team worked around the clock, analyzing the data and trying to make sense of the nebulosa's strange emissions. The more they studied, the more questions arose, each one more perplexing than the last. Evelyn, hunched over her workstation, called out, "Marcus, come look at this." Her voice carried both excitement and a trace of concern. Marcus hurried over, his curiosity piqued. On her screen, a series of graphs displayed the energy patterns emitted by the nebulosa. "These fluctuations aren't random," she explained. "There's a pattern here, almost like a form of communication." Marcus's mind raced. If that's true, then we're dealing with something far more complex than we imagined. But what is it trying to tell us? As they delved deeper, the challenges mounted. Communication systems were still unreliable, cutting them off from outside help. The weather turned hostile, with unseasonable storms lashing the observatory. The isolation began to weigh heavily on the team, fraying tempers and testing their resolve. Tom, eager to prove himself, suggested a new hypothesis. What if the nebulosa is a sort of cosmic message, a signal from an advanced civilization? Dr. Lee scoffed, his skepticism evident. "That's a leap, Jenkins. We need solid evidence, not wild theories." Despite the growing tension, Marcus encouraged Tom's idea. "We can't afford to dismiss any possibilities. Let's explore every angle." The team divided their efforts, with each member focusing on different aspects of the nebulosa. Marcus and Evelyn worked on decoding the energy patterns, while Tom and Dr. Lee analyzed the physical properties of the nebulosa. As they pieced together the puzzle, the sense of urgency grew. The nebulosa's anomalies were increasing in frequency and intensity, and they had no idea what might happen next. Late one night, as the storm outside reached a fever pitch, Marcus and Evelyn made a breakthrough. "Look at this," Evelyn said, pointing to her screen. "These energy pulses form a coherent sequence. It's almost like a language." Marcus's eyes widened. "If we can decode this, we might be able to understand what the nebulosa is trying to communicate." Tom, who had been working on the physical analysis, added, "The structure of the nebulosa itself seems to be changing in response to its emissions. It's like it's alive, reacting to stimuli." Dr. Lee remained skeptical but couldn't deny the evidence piling up. "If this is true, we're dealing with something entirely unprecedented. We need to proceed carefully." The team's excitement was tempered by the realization of the enormity of their discovery. They were on the brink of something that could change humanity's understanding of the universe, but the risks were equally monumental. As they continued their work, strange phenomena began to occur with increasing frequency. Instruments would malfunction without explanation, and the air inside the observatory seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. The team's isolation and the hostile weather only added to their growing sense of unease. Marcus, sensing the need for a moment of respite, called a meeting. We need to take a step back and ensure we're not missing anything. Let's review all our data and theories. We can't afford any mistakes. Gathered around the central table, the team pored over their findings. Each member contributed insights and observations, their collaborative effort bringing clarity to the nebula's enigmatic patterns. It's like a puzzle, Tom said, his enthusiasm evident. Every piece we uncover brings us closer to understanding the whole picture. Evelyn nodded. And we're making progress. We just need to stay focused and keep pushing forward. Dr. Lee, though still cautious, added, we've come this far together. Let's see this through to the end. Encouraged by their unity and shared purpose, the team redoubled their efforts. They refined their instruments, improved their data collection methods, and devised new strategies to decode the nebula's message. Each small breakthrough brought them closer to the truth, and their determination never wavered. As the days turned into weeks, the team's camaraderie grew stronger. They supported each other through the challenges, celebrated each success, and faced each setback with renewed resolve. The nebulosa, with all its mysteries, had become their shared quest, binding them together in a way none had anticipated. One evening, as the sun set behind the storm clouds, casting a surreal glow over the observatory, Marcus felt a deep sense of gratitude for his team. We've got something special here, he thought. Together, we can accomplish anything. The journey to unravel the nebula's secrets was far from over, but Marcus knew they were on the right path. With every discovery, they moved closer to a revelation that could redefine humanity's place in the cosmos. And with his dedicated team by his side, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the days turned into weeks, the pressure on the team intensified. The nebula's emissions grew more erratic, causing equipment malfunctions and strange, unexplainable phenomena. One night, the observatory's main telescope swiveled on its own, locking onto the nebulosa as if guided by an unseen force. This is getting out of hand, Dr. Lee muttered, his frustration mounting. We need to consider abandoning this project before someone gets hurt. Marcus shook his head, determination etched on his face. We can't give up now. We're on the brink of a major discovery. We just need to figure out what's causing these disturbances. Evelyn approached Marcus, her expression serious. Marcus, we need to talk. The team is getting restless. They're scared, and honestly, so am I. We need a plan. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. I know, Evelyn. But what can we do? We can't just walk away from this. As they spoke, another power surge rocked the observatory. The lights flickered, and a low hum resonated through the building. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Whatever was happening, it was getting worse. In the control room, Tom's voice broke through the tense silence. Marcus, you need to see this. The data from the latest emission, it's off the charts. The energy levels are unprecedented. Marcus hurried over, his heart pounding. The screen displayed a series of spikes, each one more intense than the last. This is incredible, he whispered. But it's also dangerous. We need to figure out a way to stabilize these emissions. The team's dynamic began to shift under the pressure. Evelyn, usually calm and collected, showed signs of strain. Tom's enthusiasm was tempered by growing fear. Dr. Lee's skepticism turned into outright opposition, causing friction with Marcus. Despite the mounting challenges, Marcus refused to back down. He was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. But as the anomalies grew more severe, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The nebulosa held secrets that could either propel them to greatness or bring about their destruction. The next morning, Marcus called an all-hands meeting in the control room. The team gathered, their faces reflecting a mix of determination and fatigue. We need to develop a strategy to deal with these anomalies, Marcus began. We can't keep reacting. We need to be proactive. Evelyn nodded, her focus returning. We should analyze the patterns of the surges and try to predict when the next one will occur. If we can anticipate them, we might be able to mitigate their effects. Tom chimed in, and we need to reinforce our equipment further. The last surge almost took out our main systems. We can't afford that to happen again. Dr. Lee, although still skeptical, offered a grudging nod of agreement. We also need to consider the psychological toll this is taking on everyone. We've been pushing ourselves to the limit. Marcus appreciated Lee's concern. You're right, Sam. Let's set up shifts so everyone gets some rest. We need to stay sharp. With a renewed sense of purpose, the team set to work. They developed a predictive model for the surges, based on the data they had collected so far. Evelyn and Tom worked on reinforcing the equipment, while Dr. Lee coordinated the shifts to ensure everyone got adequate rest. Despite their best efforts, the anomalies continued to escalate. One particularly violent surge caused a cascade of failures, plunging the observatory into darkness. The team scrambled to restore power, their movements frantic in the dim emergency lighting. We're losing control, Tom shouted, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of alarms. Stay calm, Marcus commanded. We trained for this. Follow the protocol. As they worked to stabilize the systems, the intensity of the surge gradually subsided. The lights flickered back on, and the alarms silenced. The team slumped in relief, their breaths coming in heavy gasps. We can't keep going like this, Evelyn said, her voice trembling with exhaustion. We need a breakthrough, and soon. Marcus knew she was right. They were on the edge, both physically and mentally. The nebulosa's secrets were within reach, but so were the risks of continuing their pursuit. We need to double down on our efforts to decode the message, Marcus said. If we can understand what the nebulosa is trying to tell us, we might find a way to stabilize these emissions. The team agreed, their resolve hardening despite the overwhelming challenges. They resumed their work with renewed vigor, driven by the tantalizing possibility of uncovering the nebulosa's mysteries. As night fell, the storm outside intensified, mirroring the turmoil within the observatory. Marcus found himself once again standing on the balcony, staring out into the darkness. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders, but he couldn't turn back now. We're so close, he thought. We just need to hold on a little longer. With a deep breath, he turned back to rejoin his team, ready to face whatever came next. The tension in the observatory reached a breaking point. As the anomalies worsened, fear and frustration took their toll on the team. Dr. Lee, in particular, became increasingly agitated, his skepticism turning into outright hostility. One night, a particularly violent storm raged outside, the wind howling and rain lashing against the observatory's windows. Inside, the team was on edge, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy amid the chaos. Marcus, we need to shut this down, Dr. Lee insisted, his voice shaking with anger. This project is a disaster waiting to happen. We have no idea what we're dealing with. We're so close to a breakthrough, Sam, Marcus argued. We can't abandon our research now. Dr. Lee's face twisted with frustration. You're risking all our lives for your obsession. Evelyn stepped in, trying to calm the situation. Let's take a step back and think this through. We need to keep a clear head. But it was too late. Dr. Lee stormed out of the control room, leaving the team in stunned silence. Marcus exchanged a worried glance with Evelyn, the tension between them palpable. Later that night, an alarm blared through the observatory, jolting everyone awake. Marcus rushed to the control room, his heart pounding. What happened? Tom, pale and wide-eyed, pointed to the monitors. Someone sabotaged the equipment. Our systems are crashing. Panic set in as the team scrambled to restore order. Marcus's mind raced. Who would do this, and why? His thoughts turned to Dr. Lee, but he couldn't believe his colleague would go this far. As they worked frantically to repair the damage, Evelyn discovered the source of the sabotage. It was deliberate, she said, her voice trembling. Someone tampered with the power grid. Marcus felt a surge of anger. Lee. It has to be him. They confronted Dr. Lee, who denied everything, but the evidence was damning. Marcus's trust in his colleagues shattered, and the team's unity fractured further. The sabotage had not only endangered their lives, but also set back their research significantly. With the observatory barely operational, Marcus knew they had to act fast. The nebulosa's anomalies were escalating, and time was running out. He gathered the team, determined to push forward despite the betrayal. "We need to stay focused," Marcus urged. "We're close to understanding the nebulosa. We can't let fear or anger stop us now." Reluctantly, the team agreed. But the damage was done, and the seeds of distrust had been sown. As they resumed their work, each member felt the weight of uncertainty and fear, wondering what other dangers might lie ahead. The following morning, the team worked with a renewed sense of urgency. They had little time to reflect on the betrayal, knowing the mission's success depended on their collective effort. Marcus assigned tasks with military precision, aiming to repair the damaged systems and bolster their defenses against future sabotage. Tom and Evelyn focused on recalibrating the sensors and stabilizing the power grid. Their fingers flew over the controls, a silent testament to their determination. Marcus took charge of reprogramming the security protocols, ensuring no further tampering could occur. Dr. Lee was kept under close watch, his access restricted. His demeanor had shifted from defiance to a subdued silence, the weight of his actions evident in his eyes. Marcus couldn't bring himself to expel Lee from the team completely. They needed every capable hand, and despite the breach of trust, Lee's expertise was invaluable. By evening, the team had managed to restore most of the observatory's functionality. The equipment hummed with renewed vigor, and the sense of impending doom had lessened, though not disappeared. "We're back online," Evelyn announced, her voice tinged with exhaustion and relief. "Good work, everyone," Marcus said. "But we can't afford to relax. The anomalies are getting worse, and we need to be prepared for anything." That night, as the storm continued to rage outside, Marcus found a moment of solitude on the observatory's balcony. The night sky, once a source of inspiration and wonder, now felt like a looming presence, filled with unknown threats. He thought about the nebulosa, its mysteries, and the potential it held. The risk of discovery had always been part of the allure, but the stakes had never felt higher. They were on the brink of something monumental, but the path was fraught with danger. Marcus's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the door. Evelyn stepped out, her face illuminated by the dim light from inside. "Hey," she said gently. "I thought you might want some company." Marcus nodded, grateful for her presence. "It's been a rough few days." Evelyn leaned against the railing, looking up at the sky. "We've been through a lot, but we can't give up now. We're so close." Marcus sighed. "I know. It's just the betrayal, the danger. It's all starting to weigh on me." Evelyn placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We'll get through this, Marcus. Together. We just need to keep our focus and trust in each other." Her words brought a measure of comfort. Marcus looked at her, seeing the resolve in her eyes. "You're right. We'll find a way." As they stood together, the storm began to subside, the winds calming and the rain easing. It felt like a small, symbolic victory, a reminder that even the fiercest storms eventually pass. "Let's get back inside," Marcus said. "We have a lot of work to do." Evelyn nodded, and they returned to the control room, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey was far from over, but they were determined to see it through, united in their quest for discovery and understanding. Despite the setback, the team pressed on, driven by a mix of determination and desperation. The nebulosa's emissions were becoming increasingly erratic, and they knew they had little time to decipher its mysteries before another catastrophe struck. Evelyn and Marcus focused on analyzing the patterns in the nebulosa's energy emissions. After countless hours of work, they began to notice something extraordinary. "Marcus, look at this," Evelyn said, pointing to a series of graphs. "The energy fluctuations are too precise to be random. It's like a coded message." Marcus's eyes widened. "A message? From whom? Or what?" Tom chimed in, his earlier enthusiasm tempered by caution. What if it's an attempt at communication? An advanced intelligence trying to reach out to us? The idea was both exhilarating and terrifying. If true, it meant they were on the verge of the greatest discovery in human history. But it also meant they were dealing with forces far beyond their understanding. As they worked to decode the message, the anomalies intensified. The observatory's equipment malfunctioned more frequently, and the strange phenomena grew more pronounced. At one point, the air itself seemed to shimmer, distorting their vision and making it hard to breathe. Evelyn's hands shook as she adjusted the settings on her terminal. We need to stabilize these emissions before they tear this place apart. Marcus nodded, his mind racing. We need to isolate the source of the message and find a way to communicate back. If this is a signal, there must be a way to respond. The team worked tirelessly, their exhaustion evident but their resolve unbroken. They developed a plan to send a return signal, hoping to establish a dialogue with whatever intelligence was behind the nebulosa's anomalies. As they prepared to execute the plan, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the edge of something monumental. The sense of foreboding was stronger than ever, but so was his determination to see this through. We're about to make history, he said, looking at his team. Let's hope we're ready for what we find. With the observatory's systems barely holding together, they sent out their signal. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The nebulosa's energy surged, filling the observatory with a blinding light. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. And then, the message came through. The blinding light receded, leaving the team stunned and blinking in the aftermath. The control room buzzed with an eerie silence, only broken by the steady hum of the equipment. On the monitors, a series of symbols and patterns began to scroll, forming the nebulosa's decoded message. It's incredible, Evelyn whispered, her eyes wide with awe. It's a blueprint, or perhaps a map, showing something we've never seen before. Marcus's heart raced as he studied the data. The message seemed to depict a complex structure, a nexus of energy and matter that defied conventional understanding. This could be the key to understanding not just the nebulosa, but the very fabric of the universe. Tom, despite his earlier caution, was visibly excited. If we can figure out how to interpret this, it could revolutionize our knowledge of physics and cosmology. But the thrill of discovery was short-lived. As they delved deeper into the message, the anomalies intensified. The observatory shook with tremors, and the air crackled with static energy. The team struggled to maintain their focus, fighting against the mounting physical and psychological pressure. We need to stabilize these emissions now, Marcus urged. If we don't, the entire observatory could be torn apart. Working frantically, they developed a strategy to isolate the source of the emissions and neutralize the dangerous energy surges. Evelyn, using her expertise in quantum physics, suggested a risky method involving the modification of their equipment to create a counterfrequency. This is untested and could backfire, she warned. But it might be our only shot. Marcus agreed, his determination unshaken. We have to try. We can't let this discovery slip through our fingers. The team set to work, adjusting the equipment and preparing for the final confrontation with the nebulosa's anomalies. The tension was palpable as they executed the plan, each member acutely aware of the stakes. As they initiated the counterfrequency, the observatory was engulfed in a cascade of light and sound. The building shook violently, and for a moment, it seemed as if the entire structure would collapse. Hold steady, Marcus shouted, his voice barely audible over the cacophony. We can do this. With a final surge of energy, the anomalies began to stabilize. The tremors subsided, and the air cleared, leaving the team breathless and exhausted but victorious. We did it, Evelyn said, her voice a mixture of relief and disbelief. We actually did it. Marcus smiled, his eyes reflecting both triumph and the weight of the ordeal they had just endured. This is just the beginning. We've unlocked something incredible, and now we have to understand it. The aftermath of the final anomaly left the observatory in a fragile state, but the team's spirit was invigorated by their success. They knew they had only scratched the surface of the nebulasa's secrets and that their journey was far from over. As they began to analyze the stabilized emissions and the decoded message, a new sense of purpose took hold. The message revealed a series of coordinates, pointing to a location deep in space where the structure depicted in the blueprint might be found. "We need to send a probe to these coordinates," Marcus said, his voice filled with determination. "If this structure exists, it could be the key to understanding the nebulosa and its origins." The team worked tirelessly to prepare a probe, modifying it to withstand the harsh conditions they anticipated. Despite the lingering tension from Dr. Lee's sabotage, the team managed to unite around their common goal. As the probe launched into space, the team monitored its progress with bated breath. The data it transmitted back was beyond their wildest expectations. The coordinates led to a region of space where the laws of physics seemed to blur, a nexus of energy and matter that defied explanation. "This is it," Marcus said, awe in his voice. "This is what the nebulosa was pointing us to. An intersection of dimensions, or perhaps a gateway to another realm of existence." But as they celebrated their discovery, a new crisis emerged. The stabilizing emissions began to fluctuate again, threatening to undo their hard-won progress. The team realized that the nebulosa was not just a passive anomaly but a dynamic, evolving entity that required constant monitoring and adjustment. "We need to create a permanent solution," Evelyn insisted. "Something that can adapt to the nebulosa's changes in real time." Marcus nodded, his mind racing. "Agreed. We'll design a feedback system that can continuously recalibrate based on the nebulasa's emissions." As they worked on the new system, the observatory's condition continued to deteriorate. Equipment failures and structural damage compounded their challenges, pushing the team to their limits. In the darkest moment, when it seemed everything might be lost, Marcus had a breakthrough. He realized that the nebulasa's emissions were not just random fluctuations but responses to their own actions. By understanding this feedback loop, they could create a system that not only stabilized the emissions but also allowed them to communicate with the nebulosa in a meaningful way. With renewed focus, the team implemented Marcus's plan. The observatory systems synchronized with the nebulasa's emissions, creating a stable and adaptive feedback loop. The immediate threat was neutralized, and the team stood on the brink of a new era of discovery. The observatory was finally at peace, the chaotic energy of the nebulosa harmonized with their newly implemented feedback system. Marcus and his team stood in the control room, exhaustion etched on their faces but with a deep sense of accomplishment in their hearts. The nebulosa, once a source of peril, now offered a steady stream of data, revealing its secrets in manageable, coherent bursts. Evelyn glanced at the screen, where the decoded message continued to unfold. "We did it, Marcus. We've opened a door to a whole new understanding of the universe." Marcus nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "This is just the beginning. The knowledge we've gained here will propel us into new realms of discovery." Tom, still buzzing with excitement despite the long hours, said, "Imagine the possibilities. We might be on the verge of interstellar communication, or even travel." Dr. Lee, who had been subdued since the sabotage incident, stepped forward, a look of genuine contrition on his face. "Marcus, I owe you and the team an apology. My fear clouded my judgment. But what we've achieved here, it's beyond anything I could have imagined." Marcus extended his hand, a gesture of reconciliation. "We all faced our fears, Sam. The important thing is that we pulled through together." With the immediate crisis behind them, the team focused on transmitting their findings to the wider scientific community. The data was meticulously compiled, detailing their methods, discoveries, and the potential implications for physics and cosmology. As the transmission went out, a wave of relief and pride washed over them. Their work would not only be recognized, but could change the world. The world reacted with awe and curiosity. Scientists from around the globe reached out, eager to collaborate and expand upon the groundbreaking research. The observatory, once a solitary outpost, became a hub of activity and innovation. Marcus stood on the balcony once more, gazing at the now familiar nebulosa. He felt a profound sense of connection to the cosmos, a reminder of the endless mysteries that awaited exploration. Evelyn joined him, her presence a comforting anchor. "What's next, Marcus?" He smiled, a glint of excitement in his eyes. "We keep going. We've only just begun to scratch the surface. There are other anomalies, other messages out there. And we'll be ready for them." Months later, the observatory had transformed from a place of isolation to a bustling center of research and collaboration. Scientists from various fields converged to study the data from the nebulosa, each new discovery sparking more questions and theories. The original team, now hailed as pioneers, continued their work with renewed vigor. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger, their bonds forged in the crucible of shared adversity. The probe they had sent to the coordinates provided by the nebulosa had revealed astonishing insights. The region of space they had discovered was indeed a nexus, where dimensions seemed to converge. This revelation opened up possibilities that defied even the most imaginative theories of physics. Marcus, Evelyn, Tom, and Dr. Lee found themselves at the forefront of a scientific revolution. Their work inspired a new generation of researchers and explorers, all eager to push the boundaries of human knowledge. One evening, as the team gathered to review the latest data, a familiar hum filled the air. The nebulosa, their enigmatic guide, pulsed with a new energy. On the screens, a fresh series of symbols and patterns began to emerge. Tom looked at Marcus, excitement in his eyes. "It looks like our friend out there has more to say." Marcus felt a surge of anticipation. "Then let's get to work. The universe isn't going to wait for us." As they began decoding the new message, a sense of purpose filled the room. They were no longer just scientists observing the cosmos, they were participants in a grand, unfolding story. The nebulosa had opened a door, and they were ready to step through, eager to see what lay beyond. The observatory buzzed with a newfound energy as scientists from around the world collaborated on the data streaming in from the nebulosa. The once remote and isolated facility had become a beacon of scientific inquiry and discovery. Marcus, Evelyn, Tom, and Dr. Lee had grown accustomed to the constant flow of new ideas and faces, each bringing a unique perspective to the enigmatic signals from the nebulosa. On a particularly clear night, the core team gathered on the observatory's balcony, gazing up at the stars that had guided their journey from the beginning. The sky was a tapestry of twinkling lights, a constant reminder of the vast mysteries still awaiting discovery. Evelyn broke the comfortable silence. "It's hard to believe how far we've come. From those first anomalies to decoding complex messages, it feels like we've only just begun." Tom nodded, a grin spreading across his face. "And to think, this all started with a few flickering lights and a hunch." Dr. Lee, who had been quietly reflecting, added, "We've learned that even in the face of uncertainty and fear, collaboration and perseverance can lead to extraordinary breakthroughs. I'm proud of what we've accomplished together." Marcus looked at his team, a sense of pride and gratitude welling up within him. "This is just the beginning. The nebulosa has shown us that the universe is full of surprises. We need to remain curious and open-minded, ready to embrace whatever comes next." As they continued to decode the latest messages from the nebulosa, the implications of their discoveries began to unfold. They were uncovering not just scientific data, but hints of a larger cosmic narrative, one that connected them to something far greater than they had ever imagined. The scientific community responded with a mixture of awe and enthusiasm. New collaborations were formed, grants and funding poured in, and the observatory became a central hub for cutting-edge research. The discoveries made their spark new fields of study and inspired countless young scientists to pursue careers in astrophysics and cosmology. One day, as the team reviewed the latest batch of data, a message came through that was different from all the others. It was clearer, more structured, almost as if it were a direct communication rather than a series of cryptic signals. Evelyn's eyes widened as she interpreted the data. "Marcus, you need to see this. It's not just a message, it's an invitation." Marcus read the decoded message, his heart pounding. The coordinates provided pointed to a specific location in deep space, accompanied by a sequence that suggested a meeting or a convergence of sorts. "This could be the most significant discovery yet," Marcus said, his voice filled with excitement. "We need to prepare a mission to investigate this further." The team sprang into action, their minds racing with the possibilities of what they might encounter. The journey ahead was filled with unknowns, but they were ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. As the preparations for the mission began, Marcus took a moment to reflect on their journey. The nebulosa had brought them together, tested their limits, and ultimately transformed their understanding of the universe. They had ventured into the unknown and come back with knowledge that would shape the future of humanity. Standing on the balcony once more, Marcus looked up at the night sky, feeling a deep sense of connection to the cosmos. The adventure was far from over, and the stars held many more secrets waiting to be uncovered. "We're ready," he thought. "Whatever lies ahead, we'll face it together." With the promise of new discoveries and adventures ahead, the team continued their journey, united by their quest for knowledge and their unyielding spirit. The observatory, once a remote outpost, had become a beacon of human curiosity and resilience, shining brightly against the vast, mysterious canvas of the night sky.